course, the economic fallout continues, and Australia Advisor Ratings is casting a steely eye over the last quarter of the Aussie financial planning and investment advice industry. To walk us through what's going on there, founder Angus Woods is right here in the studio. Now, just having a flick through your report, people seem to be deserting the industry just when I think people probably need it most.
Yeah, I guess it's economics 101. We've got this massive demand for advice at the moment, yet the supply is becoming more and more constrained. We had 369 advisors leave the industry over the last quarter, mostly due to the impact of the sort of regulation and the compliance concerns sort of festering amongst the industry at the moment. So it is concerning, and that's pushing up the cost of advice for consumers. But I think I'm always of the belief. I use the Greek mythologist sort of Daedalus father, to his son Icarus, in terms of going, don't fly too low to the sort of sea, because you're going to be, if you're too complacent, you're not going to sit your financial advisor exam, then you're going to go into the water. If you go too high to the sun, you're going to be burnt. So I think you're seeing this overconfidence by financial advisors at the moment in terms of going, I can complete this new exam, because that's a requirement now, and they've only got 4 sittings to go. And if they don't sit that exam, then they're out of the industry.
Absolutely. So the key question I think people are looking back is like, well, this exam, is it going to go and lead to better outcomes, or is it going to lead to less people being in the industry, being able to go and provide advice to people who need it?
I'm of the view that it's great to basically place a stake in the sand to say, okay, well, let's have a common equation in terms of what's going on in the industry, and can people, if people are good enough, they should be able to pass this exam. That said, the onerous sort of 3 hours placed on someone, the anxiety that a lot of advisors feel in terms of, I'm not sure if you've sat in a 3-hour exam lately. I know I haven't for the last 10, 15 years. So I think that's where there's concern, is it is pushing out some good advisors. That said, if they are good, they should be able to complete the exam.
Do you think as in, I'm on the ASX website all the time, and there's always this advisor, this advisor, this advisor. There's been a history of fraud, which is probably why this has come. Have they gone too far the other way in terms of making the hurdle that little bit too high?
Well, I think it's typical when governments get involved in an industry that they probably aren't on top of, and we were talking about the sort of vaccine regulation and all that sort of stuff in terms of what we're doing there. I'm obviously getting my FASEA vaccine in the next couple of weeks, but I think in terms of the industry here, in terms of the advice industry, yes, there has been some overreach. And what you've now seen is we'll get to 50% of the industry actually have left in terms of, and that obviously creates a massive void. These advisors manage half of Australia's wealth. So there's $6 trillion in Australia's wealth at the moment, $3 trillion in super, $3 trillion out of super, and the advisors manage half of this. So, there's going to be some implications there for stakeholders and for consumers.
When it comes to where the advisors are at the moment, privately owned licensees are by far the largest component. How do they compare when it comes to other components? Now, where have we seen the other advisors leave predominantly from?
Yeah, well, I think it's no surprise over the last, it's obviously been telegraphed over the last couple of years. We've seen the banks exit advice. So we've seen the advisors have been leaving the banks, ending up in these privately owned sort of boutique 1 to 2 to 5 man sort of practices, and also the accountants who were forced to be regulated sort of 5 years ago have suddenly said, hang on, going through all that legislation and that regulation 5 years ago, now the impost is far greater. And so the accountants are getting out and going, let's stick to our knitting, let's basically do accounting, not get into financial planning. So they're partnering up with these boutiques and these smaller licensees, but you're seeing accountants now move out of financial planning altogether.
Yeah, just when we need it. Thank you. So hopefully we've got better news next time we speak to you.